Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. And I'm here with George Bashira, a good friend from Shakedown Thunder out there in South Bend, Indiana, joining us. Euan is on assignment tonight. We'll have him back next week here on Wednesday night. Big show tonight. We're going to talk some ACC football. We're going to talk the Atlantic League. We'll preview some Atlantic League. We talked from the ACC kickoff with George. We talked to Milton, the quarterback from Florida State, who came over from Central Florida, and then talked to Coach Novell, when I talked to him before during the press conference. And then we got Boston College. You got Phil, the backup, for Ian Book for a very long time. Yep, I talked to him about if he talked to Ian Book when he got drafted by the Saints, and he said, "Nah, I haven't talked to him." Basically, that's what it was a good thing to do. And then we'll talk Syracuse football. And then we have our good friend from the Peach Bowl joining us. We did a video with Gary Stokin down there in the ACC kickoff. And then let me just pull up the whole schedule for you guys. You can see it without me reading it. So, here it is. Yeah, so we'll talk about Gary Stokin, at 7:20. And then at 7:25, the head coach of Northern Illinois, the Huskies, they're going to be taking on Georgia Tech in week 1 down in hot Atlanta. Coach Thomas Hammock, who used to be the running backs coach at the Ravens a couple of years ago, George. So we'll talk a little Ravens football if he wants to. And then Tyler Crowler from the host and Kick It with Crowder. He's down in Georgia. We'll talk some SEC, ACC football as well. And then we'll get to the 7:45. We'll have our friend Jerry DePola will be joining us from Pittsburgh. We'll talk some Panther football. And then at 8 o'clock, Mike James from the Jim Thorpe Award will join us at 8 o'clock. So let's get on with the show here. Euan and I made a trip down to Charlotte 2 weeks ago for the ACC kickoff, and we had a chance to talk to some great coaches and got a chance to meet the Florida State coach, George. It was pretty cool talking to him. I had a chance to try to get a photograph with him, but it didn't work.
Opportunity missed.
Yeah. Well, here's the story, guys. I tried to get him, he's like, hey, I went up to him, I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, I'm such and such, I'm a big fan of, my sports media here in Baltimore. And he goes, hey, would you like a picture? I'm like, sure. So I gave him my phone. I gave the guy from the, Florida State, Derek, from the Florida State PR department, takes the picture. It doesn't show up on my phone. It goes into the abyss. I don't know where it went.
It went to the electron heaven.
Yeah. So I saw Coach Novell afterwards in the breakout room because George, when with the ACC kickoff, they have a breakout room. And they basically, I said, Coach, can I try to get another photograph? Because it didn't work. He's like, okay, let's try another one. Well, we took a picture. It became fuzzy. So I guess it's not meant to be. So we called that up. And I just looked at people like, what can you do? So
that's a bust.
Exactly. Well, we'll talk to. I had a chance to talk to Mike during they do a press conference thing with all the local, all the media people from the ACC. They had a chance to answer a question. It was basically the Euan McCreath and Dan DeTore show because Dan DeTore will be joining us later in the program. They were going back and forth asking questions. It was hilarious. I was trying to get a meter going. One, who has the slight advantage. So here's the interview I had with Mike, coach of Florida State, and I asked him about Milton and Travis being the quarterbacks this year. So here it is.
The fifth row.
Hey, Coach Mike, Chris Heidel from Herbism Radio in Baltimore. Thanks for taking some time this morning. Talk about the two quarterbacks, Milton and Travis. What do they bring to the table for the offense?
The two incredible players, but you also incredible young men. And who they are on the field, they're playmakers. And I think you've seen that throughout the course of their careers. Jordan this past season, did some remarkable things through some extreme challenges. Dealing with injuries, missed time, continuing to grow and respond throughout that year. And with McKenzie and his story, somebody that I had a great familiarity with, having to compete against him, but now getting a chance to coach him day in and day out. They're two young men that they bring it every day. the appreciation for the opportunity, the appreciation for what it takes in the process to grow and develop, but then also an appreciation for who they get to do it with. There's a lot of guys that go through college football with just a sole focus on themselves. Those two young men, and they care about who they get to be with and who they get to represent on their journey, and they're a joy to coach every single day, and to see them compete with each other. The quarterback position is unique, and those guys are both battling, bringing out the best of themselves and bringing out the best of each other in how they grow and how they develop and what they do, on the field, off the field, in the weight room, on the practice field, and you're really tremendous leaders for our program.
Coach, to your
Yeah, they are. They're two good leaders, because Travis was thrown in last year, Jordan Travis, when Blackman went down, and then Blackman got transferred or left the program. And then with Milton, you haven't seen him in 2 years, George. The last time he threw a football, he was under a pile and broke his leg.
Well, actually, I'm going to ask you to go back and play that video again because he talked so quick. I was like, I'm trying to catch up with what he was saying.
I'll give it to you later.
Oh no, I was only kidding.
Yeah.
He was talking pretty quick. The interesting thing will be with these quarterbacks, right? As their stock rises, is how all this NIL, like name and likeness stuff, comes into play with all this. I mean, it is the conversation should be around these football players. Is it going to be about the team, or is it about their stock and how much money they're bringing in and their name and likeness?
Yeah, that's true. Milton and King, I was reading online, they formed some kind of pact that they could actually get paid for their appearances in college. And to me, I think, I understand college athletes are looking for money, because I know when parents, give them the opportunity for scholarships, they don't get enough money for, I think they only get $400. I think that's what I heard. I don't know. Somebody told me that down at the ACC kickoff. I also found out the other time down there that Clemson, when they went to the Fiesta Bowl, Clemson's parents got a check for their travel expenses.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so why can't the parents give their kids their cash?
Well, because I think what part of it is, Chris, is that the parents get reimbursed for their travel.
Okay.
As part of that. So that goes back to the whole discussion that was being had, with Notre Dame and Clemson, them playing in the Rose Bowl, is, the ability for the parents to go see their kids play. I believe NCAA pays for the parents' travel to the championship series games.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. I was like, I said, wow, the parents they get paid. Probably because they have to pay their own flights and their own hotels, and and the college only could do is to give them some money back for thanks for coming out there. That's good. Good point. Thanks for bringing that clarifying it for me. That's why we bring on your program there. We had a chance to talk to Mackenzie Milton. I had a chance to talk to him after in the breakout room there in Charlotte. And I asked him about is he ready to go? Because I know a lot of, quarterbacks, when they get hit for they haven't got that first hit yet since the surgery or anything. And people are like, oh, it's like Dak Prescott, for the Cowboys. He hasn't had anybody hit him yet, except for he hurt his arm the other day throwing. But so I asked him about that. Plus, I asked him about was it like you're going to be playing in that Florida State-Miami rivalry, because this is the first time he's playing in it, and he's from Hawaii. I know everybody saw the Miami-Florida State rivalry when they're kids, but it hasn't been the same since, I want to say 2000, 2001.
It's been a long time.
Been a long time. So here's Mackenzie, talking to me in the breakout room.
But I feel like, I feel this emotion from there. So I'm super excited. I know a few of those Notre Dame guys because they're from back home, so I grew up with some of those guys. But I'm super excited to play my first game in though. Hopefully it's sold out. I think it will be. And I'm just have fun with it. I'm just enjoy that moment.
What do you think about the Florida State-Miami rivalry? This is your first year probably be part of that whole thing.
It's going to be fun. That's something I grew up watching. And, I'm super excited for that one. But, we just got to take care of business in fall camp, stay healthy, and then September 5th.
Good luck.
Yeah, that was Mackenzie Milton, who I had a chance to talk to. He's going to compete for the quarterback job again with Jordan Travis. So we'll see who plays under center September 5th when Notre Dame comes to town.
What a way to start the season, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully this could be a different Florida State team than I saw last year on NBC.
Hey, you know what? You always hope a team's going to get better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, regardless of who you're following, you want teams to get better. You want better competition.
Right, you want to. And then looking at the rest of the schedule, they have to go to North Carolina. North Carolina is going to be the favorite in the Coastal Division. You know, so you have to play Sam Howell, and you guys have to play Sam Howell and Notre Dame do. You know, down. I think it's down in. They come to your place. You know,
They come to Notre Dame this year.
Yeah, and then you got October 30th, and there's bad blood between Florida State and Clemson. We were there at the ACC kickoff. Dabo and Mike Norvell never said hello to each other.
Don't you just love it?
Yeah.
It's not even season yet, and these guys got. It's great to see that they got their game faces. You know, their game faces on. It's all business. You know what? That's what makes college football great too.
And here's the thing: it works for the ACC because they haven't had anything like that in years. There's no blood loss against between nobody, because it seems like the last couple of years has been like, oh, Clemson's in first place. We'll see them in Charlotte. Yeah.
Well, let's remember there's a big exhale this year with Notre Dame back being an independent. Everyone's like, yes, we have a chance.
Hey, I missed Notre Dame. No offense. I was there at the ACC kickoff, and I was watching, and I'm like looking around for like, is there anybody from Notre Dame? Anybody? And then like the new commissioner talked on the at the podium, Jim Phillips, and he was like talking about 15 institutions, and I was going to raise my hand. Football has 14, not 15. Okay, the 15 one is by itself. Yeah.
They went home.
Yeah, they went back home. Hey, I think what was your take last year having Notre Dame playing in a conference schedule? Did you like it? I never asked you this question. Did you like it?
You know what? I think it made Notre Dame better, and I think it made the ACC better. I like the fact that every game was important.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I mean, not that every game is not important when Notre Dame's independent,
Right.
But you want to come in there that first year and you want to make a big splash. You know, you want to go in there, and they gave it a run.
Right.
You know, they went in, they were number one in the ACC because Clemson had lost that game up until the ACC championship game, you know, and that's the game that means more. But going into that game, Notre Dame was a number one seed.
Exactly. Well, let's talk. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's talk. And then after that, they went to the Cotton. You know, went to the Rose Bowl and kind of got, or Texas, you know, and got shellacked by Alabama. And you know, I still want to talk to Brian Kelly because I think it's time for me to get back. You know, make up for my dumb question.
Hey, you know what? We all have those moments. We pick up and we move on.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm ready to ask him a question. Bring it on. Bring it on. You know,
you just make it a good one.
Exactly. That's what I'm working on. Well, let's talk about Syracuse. Syracuse last year finished the season at your place, and they did pretty good with the running game, you know, against you guys. I was really impressed.
It was an interesting game. It was, the weird part was the game didn't mean anything really to Notre Dame because they had already clinched.
Right.
They were told that they were seeded. They had nothing to lose. But Notre Dame had what they wanted to do, is get that perfect home season.
Right.
You know, so that's what they were working towards. Exactly. But that the second half of the game, it was kind of hard to put a measuring stick on it because that's when Syracuse did most of their damage was in that second half.
Right. Exactly.
And it was one or two plays that drove up their yardage, and you know, it was good for Syracuse. It was good for them to have a performance like that. It helps you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, it's, you know, they need to carry on now. Now you need to build on it, or it's just a one-off.
Right. Exactly.
You can't base this year on last year's final game.
Right. I agree. Our very own Euan McCreath, who's MIA tonight, he had a chance to talk to Dino Babers at the ACC kickoff during the whole media session with the coach. And here's his question to Coach Babers about the big boys up front.
We'll turn our attention to the right, about midway through.
Euan McCreath, Herb FM Sports Radio. Coach, I want to talk about the big boys up front. Only 2 teams in the nation gave up more sacks than you last season, but what are your expectations for this year with your offensive line?
I think the first thing is we need to call it exactly what it is. We had major injuries, domino effect of injuries in the offensive line, and most of them not on the football field. Most of them happening walking around campus, just fluke things. And when you're playing 9 football games with your fullback playing guard so that you can be one of, I believe, 2 ACC teams that played every entire game and never had a stoppage because of COVID in their program, you know, you're going to have some difficulties. Now, we're not happy with those numbers. There's no doubt about that, and that needs to change. But when you talk about the effort that offensive line put in and the people who were unselfish, Chris Elmore, other people who changed positions to give us the best opportunity we could to keep those guys upright and to keep us functioning, I really do appreciate their efforts. You know, we've had some changes and we've got some different coaches at some different positions, but I think the main difference is going to be is that those guys are healthy, and we're not going to be having a rotation of a bunch of young guys in there with some older guys. We'll have an older group, and they'll be ready to go. And it always starts with the O-line, and it always starts with the defensive line. And you can't be good in football if you're not good at those 2 positions. So hopefully we've got the health that we need to have the season that we want.
Seems.
Good point. I think everybody has to be healthy. You got to have like the Ravens today. I heard on the radio they're having problems with the offensive line. And last year they gave up like 38 sacks, and Lamar Jackson was running for his life. So that's a good point.
First of all, solid question by the way by Euan, okay, and an even more solid answer by the coach. No excuses. It is what it is. We did what we had to do, and that's the only way he owned it. It was out of his control, and that's a good coach. A good coach won't make excuses. He'll just tell you straight up, this was the problem, and this is what we had to do.
Exactly. Well, let me play Coach Gary Stokin real quick here, and then we'll get the coach on from Northern Illinois. He just gave me a call. So here's the interview I had with Gary Stokin from the Peach Bowl.
There you go. All right. Good morning, everybody. We're here at the ACC kickoff. This famous guy who's been on our program numerous times. We had Gary Stokin from the Peach Bowl, our good friend down there in Atlanta. So, Gary, thanks for joining us this morning. You just got here, so what do you think about ACC kickoff?
Well, first off, it's great to see you. It's great to be in person, and it's great to see everybody talking about college football. So we're getting back to a new normal, and we're looking forward to hosting our 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games with 100% capacity.
Wow. And that beautiful dome down there in Atlanta, with the camera lens at the top that everybody is that pretty cool when it opens up?
Yeah, it's really unique. They opened it up for the Super Bowl. We haven't opened it up for our Chick-fil-A kickoff games or Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, but yeah, it's a special place, no doubt about it. Arthur Blank's done a tremendous job making it very fan-friendly and a great fan experience.
Yeah, I work for Home Depot during the daytime, so I'm trying to get a hold of that guy. Say thank you very much. But talk about Miami and Alabama, big game. You guys started selling tickets back when we had you on in March or April. How's the ticket sales for that?
Well, it's going to be a really hard sellout. We just opened up the 2,500 expandable seats that Arthur built in for the Super Bowl and the Final Four. And
oh, nice.
Big games like we have. And so, yeah, we're going to take advantage of that. So that's going to be a very hard sellout. And then Ole Miss and Louisville on Monday, we expect to sell out as well. We'll have 3 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country in those games with Matt Corral, Derek King, and Bryce Young. So, yeah, it's going to be a great weekend to kick off college football.
Yeah, and you also got other good games coming on later in the years from now. You just had Syracuse and Tennessee in 2025. What's next year for you guys?
Yeah, so next year, 7 of the 8 teams that will play in the 4 games in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the SEC Championship, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and the 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games are going to be in the top 10 in the country. We got Oregon, Georgia opening up, which will be 2 top 10 teams. Clemson on Monday night against Georgia Tech. Clemson will be top 10, and that'll be the start of the ACC schedule. And then we're going to host the semifinal next year of the CFB and our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And then the 2 teams in the SEC Championship are typically top 10 teams as well. So next year, 7 of the 8 will be in the top 10. This year, 7 of the 8 teams will be in the top 20.
Wow.
So 2 great years of college football coming to Atlanta.
Nice. And just talk about, with being the Chick-fil-A kickoff, I think everybody's trying to do their own ones. Charlotte's doing theirs, and it seems like you guys were the first ones to establish it, and now everybody else is doing their own little thing.
Yeah, we've been copied by Dallas, Houston, Charlotte, Orlando, so I guess they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. So,
yeah.
But it's getting tougher. It's we're out through 2025 with some great matchups, but the inventory is shrinking. So it's getting more and more difficult to put these Chick-fil-A kickoff games on.
Yeah. What are you going to do about the games?
All right, this is Gary Stokin. I don't want to keep the coach from Northern Illinois on waiting so long. So Coach, thanks for joining us. We have the head coach of the Huskies of Northern Illinois. He's actually a familiar guy for this neck of the woods. He used to be the running back coach for the Baltimore Ravens. So Coach, thanks for joining, Coach Hamcock. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for coming on tonight. I know you guys just started training camp today for fall camp. How's everything going?
We actually report day is for tomorrow for us.
Okay.
So we report tomorrow. Obviously, our first game is September 4th. So obviously, the NCAA has a certain amount of days that you can report ahead of time. So we report tomorrow. Our first practice is on Friday morning. Obviously, our guys are excited. The coaches are excited. As the head coach, sometimes you're more focused on everything that needs to be done between now and that first practice. So, but it's going to be great to have our kids back on campus and ready to get to work.
Yeah, you guys had a tough last year. Everybody had a tough 2020 with COVID-19. You guys were supposed to play a season, and they decided to cancel, and then they go in November like, hey, we're going to play. How did you get your players fired up to start up and down?
Well, that was obviously a challenge because the hardest thing was, nobody had information. And I think sometimes players didn't always understand, I'm finding out information the same time as they're finding out information. But I think obviously having a great off season, going through a normal process to get ready for a season has been good. The normalcy has been good for our players. I think we gained a lot of valuable experience last year, and guys understand what to expect, and we're excited to play a full season.
Go ahead, George.
Hey, Coach. Everyone always asks the tough question. What position are you most excited about this year?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple positions. I'll give you one on each side of the ball. Obviously, I'm really excited about our backfield. I think we have talent. I think we have depth. I think we have experience. And I think we have competitive people that want to have an opportunity to show what they're all about. So, and that starts with Harrison Whaley to Jay Ducker to Aaron Collins to Clint Rakovich and on down the line. We are very deep at that position. I think that position can make a big difference on your offense. That can make a big difference on your team, especially playing in the Midwest. At the end of the year, when guys are beat up, you want to be able to ground and pound people. And I think we certainly have the ability, if we can stay healthy, to do that. Defensively, I'm excited about our defensive line. I think we got guys that's played a lot of football, even though on paper it's going to look like they're still young. These guys have played. They got experience. They got more size. They got more strength. And I think those guys can really make a difference in changing the line of scrimmage, for our defense. And I think they will allow everybody else behind them to make plays. So offensively, the running backs, defensively, our defensive line, those are the two positions I'm really excited about.
Well, folks, we have Coach Hammock from the Northern Illinois Huskies, a former player coming back home to coach his team. What's it like coming back, being the man of the program? When you were there playing football, you were like a running back, right?
Yes. Obviously you have a lot of pride in NIU and what NIU stands for and what it's about. I think as a player, you gain appreciation for, things that help you become successful. And we talk about the hard way, being at the forefront of everything that we do. We want to be tough. We want to be blue-collar. We want to have discipline. We want to be focused. We'll play, anybody, anywhere. I think that was the mentality that was established a long time ago. And obviously coming back, getting back to some of those roots of how NIU was established, the culture that was established, the type of players that we have here. I think they understand that. They embrace that. And we obviously looking for the challenge of getting the season started against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Georgia Tech. Coach Collins, third season down there in Atlanta. He has the program changed over for so many years running the Paul Johnson option. And I was talking to some people down in Atlanta at the ACC kickoff. They said football was fun again at Georgia Tech because years ago it was so boring. They must have went to get pizza or they came back to their car and tailgate because they were saying it was so boring watching the same option plays. So you being a coach, you got to change things up, right, to make things more exciting for fans.
Well, obviously they won a lot of games under Paul Johnson. Winning is never boring, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Coach Collins is down there now, and he's changing and bringing his culture and the type of team that he wants to build. And I think he's doing a good job. He has a lot of good athletes. They got a good quarterback. They got a good running back. They got two really big, long, athletic safeties, and they got linebackers that can run. So you can see the type of team that he wants to build and he wants to develop in the ACC. And we look forward to the challenge. I mean, it's going to be a tremendous challenge and a litmus test for us to see where we are as a program and how we stack up.
Go ahead, George.
Coach, everyone will say the heart of a team's at the quarterback position. Looking at your roster, it's kind of a young roster. You got 3 freshmen, a redshirted junior, and a sophomore. What do you say to the underclassmen and say, hey, at any moment here, you got to keep your head in the game because you could be in here because of injuries?
Yeah, obviously Rocky Lombardi is our starting quarterback, but we got a young man that came in early by the name of Ethan Hampton, he came in January, and he's well ahead of his time at the quarterback position. So, we feel like he's ready. He'll be ready if his number's called. He understands that, and he's working diligently to get the playbook down to make sure he has good chemistry with the wide receivers and fully understands what everybody else on offense is doing. So we feel good with our quarterback situation. We feel like we got some experience, and we feel like we got some young talent that can really, if called into duty, go out there and help us win a game.
Well, Coach, I have one last question. We're here in Baltimore. I have to bring up the Ravens. You spent some time here in Baltimore with John Harbaugh and all that stuff for 5 seasons. What did you take from being at the Castle and being around in this beautiful city of Baltimore?
Well, first of all, Baltimore, the Ravens are a tremendous organization from the top down. Obviously, when I was there, Ozzie was the GM. Now Eric DeCosta and Harbaugh. How the whole building is united and work together, the synergy in that building is something that's rare, and I think that's why they've been so successful. That's why they've had the type of seasons they've had over the last few seasons, and that starts from the top down, and I think that permeates throughout the organization. And obviously, playing at that home stadium with that home crowd, I mean, I can vividly remember those games against the Steelers or the Bengals or the Browns, the AFC North rivalry type games, and I think to me, it was a great experience. I enjoyed my 5 years, and I wish them nothing but the best.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, good luck the rest of camp. I know you guys are opening up this week. The rest of this week, later this week. But I know you're going to get your guys ready to go for Georgia Tech, and it's going to be a great game. And I know you guys are going to be ready to go, and we're ready for football. And I know you're probably ready for football too.
I appreciate that. Go Huskies.
All right, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Stay cool, Coach. It's hot here in the Midwest.
He logged off. So, Coach, that was head coach of Northern Illinois, Coach Thomas Hammock, joining us this evening. So, yeah, that's going to be this every week here on the program after the start of the kickoff. We'll be trying to preview one of the oddballs playing against an ACC school. So, we're going to try to get one for next week. Speaking of, this guy is not an oddball. This guy's a great guy. He works very well. He's a good man. Our good friend. Tyler Crowler, who good friend from down in Atlanta, who does a great job. Went to the ACC kickoff this year. So, Tyler, thanks for joining us, bud. How's everything going?
Thanks, Chris, for having me on, man. Everything is going great. Appreciate you again for having me on, and ready to talk, whatever you spit out my way.
Hey, you did a great job down there with the camera work. I was watching the one of the videos on ACC Network, and they came to like, we got a guy on the right and the back, and you're like, hi, I'm Tyler. I have a question. I was like, I know that guy.
You saw it. I didn't see it on there. I didn't record it or anything, but yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that was my first experience. I've been in the media, world for about 2 years now, and that was just a great experience. Meeting some of these coaches and getting to ask questions that were, your questions, and then seeing them featured in articles and things like that are pretty cool. So, it's a real unique way to get your hands on, not being a coach or not playing anymore. So, really enjoy the whole experience in Charlotte this year.
Exactly. Well, say hello to George. He helps us out on the Wednesday night program when he can. Euan is taking he's doing something in West Virginia. I don't know what he's doing, but we'll figure it out down the road.
Hey, George.
How's it going, Tyler?
What's going on?
Go ahead, George. You have a question for Tyler?
So, Tyler, what are you thinking about the ACC this year minus Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ACC, it begins and ends with Clemson. I mean, I think that, with Dabo Swinney, he's built a great program there in the ACC, and the ACC really needs a Miami or Florida State to kind of make a comeback. Miami has taken the appropriate steps in the past few years. Manny Diaz, of course, as their head coach. They get De'Aaron King in there. They're trying to change the culture. Then, they were down for a little bit. But I really think the ACC, needs that Florida State or Miami. You also have a team like Boston College. I really like Jeff Hafley up in Boston College. I think he's a great coach. Comes from the NFL background, Ohio State defensive coordinator. I think Yurkovich, their quarterback this year, is going to have a great season. And, they need those type of teams, the Virginia Techs, Boston College. They need North Carolina. I mean, I think North Carolina is the favorite this year in their division. That's who I voted for. And, Clemson, North Carolina, Clemson will probably be the jewel of the ACC again. But, the ACC really needs that second, third team to step up and compete with these super conferences like the SEC and what they're bringing in fold. So if I'm the ACC, I'm reaching out to a Notre Dame. I'm reaching out to maybe possibly West Virginia, someone like that who can, you can bring in and really try to build, your own little 15, 16 team conference.
Yeah.
You actually, I was just telling Chris in our chat window, I said, let me follow up on this other question that I had. It was about the whole jump to the SEC. That would just turn things upside down if that was to happen. I mean, that would be devastating to the ACC.
Yeah, if Clemson and Florida State, if you've heard Miami rumored, teams have been going after Florida State for a long time, and Florida State was really the cream of the crop in the ACC for a long time. Bobby Bowden, the early 1990s, what happened with his program and what he was able to do. And, there was talks about FSU going to the SEC back then. So, those two teams are very valuable to the ACC, even if they're down a little bit. Florida State is the top, I'm comfortable saying this, top 10 top 15, college football program in America. They truly are. I know people get tired of hearing this, but college football is better when Miami and Florida State are good. I'm sorry, it just is. Notre Dame, you sprinkle in Notre Dame in there, then you have Oklahoma, Texas, Ohio State. I mean, just these programs with this tradition. I mean, it matters in college football, and the way it's heading with the NIL rules and just these super conferences. I mean, it's changing. The whole landscape of college football is changing. They're probably going to go to the 12-team playoff. I mean, this is probably the biggest offseason of college football I can remember. I'm 32 years old, so I've been keeping up with it for a long time, but it just seems like right now it's almost becoming a step right under the NFL. I mean, it used to be a big gap, and now it just seems like that's the way it's heading, where you're just going to have these big super conferences, and I don't know if that's good for college football or not. Probably not, but we'll see what happens. I think the playoff needed to be expanded, and I don't know if 12 teams is right number, 8 teams. But I think there'll be more upsets than people think in these college football playoffs. I really do. You give a team 3 weeks, to prepare for a number 2, number 3 team in the country, and you could see these teams knock off some of these teams. So I'm interested to see what happens. I think college football needs an 8 to 10 team playoff. So we'll see what happens, guys.
Well, I totally agree with you, and they're going to do a 12-team playoff, but over in the SBS, like with Delaware and Towson and JMU, they've been doing it for years.
Yeah,
and it's been working.
Exactly.
And not like last year with the pandemic, everybody had to went back to 16 teams, and they played in the spring.
Yeah,
but it always worked because Towson, I think it's like you get points if you beat a top 5 team in your schedule. We'll say JMU beat Virginia Tech a couple of years ago. That helped them get in the postseason in the other side, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct, George? I think that's what it is. There's like a point or something. Like if let's say
It's
Notre Dame,
something like that.
Beats somebody, or if Notre Dame loses to, let's say, Delaware or someone, Delaware gets like a half a point or some kind of point to go towards their schedule, their strength of schedule.
So Tyler, I'm going to date myself a little bit. I'm going to go back to when college football was football on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Where every Saturday it was a matchup on ABC. You had the best teams playing the best teams every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone started worrying about record, and then it was the BCS, and, the BCS was supposed to be the solve all because they didn't want to rely on the coaches poll and the AP poll.
Mm-hmm.
And then the college championship series that comes up, and it's almost the same thing, just regurgitated a different way, because you go from a number calculated system back to an opinion.
Right.
So it's kind of like we're going around in this circle, and college football right now is in a frenzy.
Right. Well, George, I talked to Ed Reed a couple of years ago, and remember that game in Boston College when Miami and Boston College were playing, and Miami had to beat Boston College to get into the BCS title game. Back then, they had points or something or strength of like how many points you played.
It was a formula.
That's why Ed Reed stripped that football from his teammate, because he said to me in an interview, he goes, I had to strip the football because the guy was slow, and we needed a damn touchdown. Sorry for the language, and I had to do something, to get my team to win, and that was the turning point for Miami to get into in the Rose Bowl. If he did not strip the football, I don't think Miami would have been in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. And you're always going to have that argument, who's the 3rd team out, who's the 5th team out. Yes, you're going to have that, but at the end of the day, you have that conversation for a couple of days, and then it's over with. You don't hear about it anymore. I guarantee you couldn't name the number 5 team in the last couple of years each year. I know Georgia was in there, Ohio State was in there. I know that happens every now and then, but it's relatively, you get over it. You didn't get in, you get over it. So, I on my show, a lot of people ask the question. A lot of people do not like the 12-team playoff format. I would say 8 teams, but you're going to have that Coastal Carolina, that Liberty, that's what's exciting to me. I'm sorry. Like,
absolutely.
You're going to have this team who no one gave a chance to, who gets in and could upset somebody. That Boise State from 2007 when they beat Oklahoma. Like, that's one of the best college football games of all time. And it wasn't a college football playoff or national championship, but it was just a great game. It was the underdog beating the Goliath, and I think that's going to be good for college football. You see it in college basketball. You see these upsets. I mean, there's going to be upsets. Now, I don't think Alabama's going to go out there and get beat by a Norfolk State or something like that in the college football playoff. No, but at the end of the day, you're going to have like a Cincinnati could really beat, say they play Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Oklahoma. They could beat them in the college football playoff, and you're going to remember that for years to come. So I think that's good. And the NIL rules, yes, I think players should have been paid a long time ago. If you're in college, you're a sophomore in college, you create a YouTube page, you can make money off of it. You should be. That's old news. That should have been happened. But I'm so excited for this football season. You have Alabama coming in with Bryce Young and this new football program. You have Ohio State now with their freshman quarterback Quinn Ayers, who was the number one quarterback in the 2022 class, reclassifies. Now you got 3 quarterbacks in the last 2 cycles that were top 40 guys in their class, and there you got a logjam there. Transfer portal. One of those guys is going to hit the transfer portal. That's something to look out for in the next 2 months. You're going to have, battle at Georgia going on. Georgia is a very, very talented roster. They play Clemson here in a few weeks. Clemson's reloaded. I mean, there's just so many storylines going into this season. Miles Brennan, of course, broke his arm, and it seems like, Max Johnson's going to be the guy in Baton Rouge. So it's unbelievable how many things just keep happening every single day for the last few weeks now.
And the season hasn't started yet.
Yeah. Tyler, what's going on in your program tonight? I know you do your show around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
I do it at about 9 o'clock. I'm actually probably going to do it tomorrow night. I alternate nights, like Wednesday, Thursday night. So I'll be talking a little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the inductions, 2020 class, the 100-year class, and then the 2021 class. I'll also I'm going to be doing a little bit about the college football, just, spring practice and things like that. I'll talk about the LSU injury. And then I'll be talking about NFL training camps and just stuff like that. I'll be making my predictions coming up here in a few weeks for the season, not only NFL picks, but also college football picks. And then, I also make, bets throughout the year. So I'll be posting all my bets and stuff like that. So, yes, man, this is the best time of the season. I really truly think August to December, January is my favorite time of the year, and football's got a lot to do with that.
Exactly. Hey, we're gonna get ready probably before the first game of the year against. I think the first game is it September 2nd, George? I think it's like East Carolina and Appalachian State, or the night before that.
It's the 28th.
The 28th.
August 28th, and then there may be a game that Thursday before that, but
right.
Yeah, there may be a game that Thursday, but yeah, that's the first weekend. That 28th is that Saturday, and then there's games the next weekend too. But yeah, that's when it starts. FSU Notre Dame on Sunday night. I'll be going to that one since it's on a Sunday. I'll be able to go, so I'm pretty excited.
That's cool. All right, buddy. We'll get you on before the first game of the season, and we'll do our roundtable picks, and we'll see we're going to see who we see in his first week's games, and you and Euan just start doing your gambling, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll definitely come back on. Just let me know, and be sure to check out my show, guys. Kicking It with Crowder. You can basically find it anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff, guys. So thank you guys for having me on, and I'll get back with you guys soon.
All right, buddy. Be well. All right.
All right. Thank you, bro. Thanks, y'all.
See you. All right, folks. That's Tyler Crowler, host of Kicking with Crowler, good friend of ours. We of the program. Young up and coming person there, George. So let's bring in Jerry Apola. This guy is a busy man up there in the beautiful Pittsburgh. During the summer he covers the Pirates. I'm sorry about the Pirates there, Jerry. Yeah.
They won last night. What are you talking about?
That's right. They had a great catch. That guy in right field, I think it was Mercedes.
Polanco. Right? Yeah.
That was a good catch.
Walker broke up the no-hitter in the 7th inning and made the game-saving catch in the 9th, and then started the rally in the 10th. But then they lost today.
Oh, back to normal. Yeah. But Jerry, thanks for coming on. I know you weren't at the ACC kickoff. I know the last couple of years you haven't been there, but what did you see from afar? From the ACC kickoff.
Well, I spoke to Pat Narduzzi over the phone. He was in Charlotte, and I was back here. But it was interesting, some of the things he had to say about the state of college football. I don't think he's, and he probably isn't the only coach, isn't real happy about how things are going with the name, image, and likeness stuff, with everybody in the transfer portal. He was telling me his father, Bill Narduzzi, was a coach at Youngstown State for a long time and coached at Columbia for a long time, and an old school guy. And Pat's kind of old school himself. I mean, he'll use the transfer portal. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
You got a wide receiver from Stovall, Melky Stovall from Hawaii. He's going to use this year, and his left guard Marcus Minor from Maryland. He's going to use this year. But I think he talked about how these days it's too easy for a kid to quit. Okay, the coach didn't look at me right, or I'm not getting enough repetition in training in practice. So you get upset and you say, I'm going to transfer. Now it's easier than ever to transfer because you have to sit out a year like you used to, which I guess it's America. You should be able to go to school wherever you want. And if things don't work out at your school, you should be able to transfer. There's no problem with that. But, back in the day, you started something, you saw it through. And even last season, when, Jalen Twyman, didn't play last year because of COVID or whatever his reasons were. And Paris Ford quit after the Notre Dame game, missed the last 4 games. A couple other guys didn't play in the Georgia Tech game because they were getting ready for the NFL. I don't know. To me, it seems like that's not the way things should be. You stick it out to the end, and then there are just kind of things.
So, Jerry, you touched on a topic that I've been thinking about a lot lately, the NIL stuff. It's going to change the face of football as far as it going from a team sport to an eye sport, and a guy trying to figure out, I got to keep my stock value up so I can keep the bucks rolling in. What are your thoughts?
There he is.
I'm back.
All right, that's cool. Yeah, repeat it, George. Go ahead, repeat it.
So, Jerry, I was asking a question about NIL. It's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you before you mentioned it. It's going to be a problem because these guys, it's going to be going from a team sport to an eye sport because the guys are going to want to get the ball. They're going to want to be making the tackles. They're going to want to have their name out there. It's going to be a huge influence on college football this season.
Yeah, I think it is. Even the kid who was going, Ewers was going to Ohio State. He was going to skip his senior year, so he'd go to Ohio State right away. Now, that's not something that's going to be easy to do. I mean, a kid, who just finished his junior year is going to have to really take some accelerated courses to get himself graduated so he can enroll in September at his new college. So I think that's going to be, a rare occurrence. It'll happen, of course. And the Alabama quarterback, he's going to make, $1 million from all his endorsements. And poor Kenny Pickett, he got a deal, with a restaurant in Oakland, on the Pitt campus, where they're going to give free meals to Pickett and his offensive linemen once a week for the entire season. Which isn't a bad deal. These college kids, especially these big linemen, they like to eat. And even get a free meal, a nice restaurant too. Not far from the camp or right on the campus. So it's kind of a good deal. I mean, it's not $1 million, but heck, he has some other things going for him too. But I think he's picking. If I know him the way I think I know him, he's picking and choosing things, and not trying to get himself too deep into this endorsement stuff. So he forgets about the real reason he's in college, and that's to play football and to try to bring another coastal championship back to Pittsburgh. It's going to be tough to do in any case. If these guys aren't focused, any school, not just Pitt or anywhere, if you're not focused, you're thinking about your next endorsement, you're not going to play much football. At the ACC cook-offs in Charlotte, Deslin Alexander, Pitt's senior defensive end, was asked about name, image, and likeness. And he said he's not getting into it. because he wants to focus on football. And even Pickett even said, the money you can make from NIL right now is peanuts compared to what you can make if you make a good reputation for yourself, have a good season, and go into the NFL. So it's accelerating the process. Smart guys, I think, are going to make sure that they temper their enthusiasm a little bit and stick to the basics.
It's a pay me now, pay me later. I'd rather the pay me later than the pay me now.
Well, yeah, but if you can make some money now and it doesn't take away from what you're doing, all the better. I have no problem with it. If the kids, do it the right way, I don't have any problem with it. But I just hope we don't get any opt-outs this year. I haven't heard of any yet. Have you guys heard of any college players opting out? This time last year, that's when Jalen Twyman decided to opt out right at after the first day of practice. But with COVID now, that's what's coming back a little bit. But maybe there is no reason to opt out if you're worried about the virus, because not everybody, but a lot of people are vaccinated. And that's another thing Narduzzi told me: 92% of his team, as of at the end of July or middle of July, when the ACC kickoff was, 92% of those guys are vaccinated, which is nice, And he wants to get everybody 100% vaccinated. It's tough to do because it's a big group, but 92% is not bad.
Exactly. We're here with Jerry DePola, our good friend from Pittsburgh, who writes for, does a lot of things with the Panthers and all the sports there in beautiful Pittsburgh. Jerry, you talk about this, what George was just talking about, with all these kids getting money now from these endorsements. If you were still if you were back in college as of today, what would young Jerry DePola look for to go get some endorsements? If you were like a football player or a basketball player, what would you look for?
I like what Kenny Pickett's getting, a meal once a week. That's not a bad deal. Doesn't take away from your studies, doesn't take away from football. I guess we'll do it. I saw they tweeted a picture the other day when they had their first meal, and they were all sitting there. I guess it was 7 of them, 6 linemen and Pickett. And they were sitting there at a nice restaurant with a nice view of the campus. And, maybe whatever day it is, Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever day it is, and they relax, have a nice meal together, sit around, talk football, talk about the next opponent. It's also a bonding experience because they did that anyway. Pickett said he used to do it in high school, with his offensive lineman. Of course, they paid their own way back then,
Right.
but they did it every Pitt quarterback, at least the last several Pitt quarterbacks have all done it, taking their lineman out, out for a nice meal at least once a week or a couple times a month during the season. Because it's just a kind of a bonding experience, and plus the guys love to sit down and have a nice meal. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, I agree. Well, getting ready for camp, starting up soon this week. UMass is the first game on the schedule, September 4th, and then you and I were talking on the phone last Friday about September 25th with New Hampshire coming to town. How's that going?
Well, Pat Narduzzi has a connection with the coach up there. And I'm sure Pat probably called a few favors and got that game scheduled with his former friend at UNH. But Pitt's exhibition, that's not right, conference schedule this year is kind of weak. I mean, they open with UMass, then they have I think Tennessee is next, or Western Michigan. I can't remember the sequence right now, but it's UMass, Tennessee on the road, at SEC Stadium, Western Michigan, and UNH. 4 games that Pitt really should be favored, number one, by big margins, at least in 3 of them. In 4 games they should win. And by the way, guys, maybe you don't know this, Pitt has never. Since they've been in the conference, they started out in the Big East, obviously, and now they've been in the ACC since 2014. They've never had an undefeated non-conference season. And this is a good chance to do that. Start out 4-0. I don't know if they get ranked. If they're 4-0 after 4 weeks, they might. If they dominate, get some big scores in there and go to Tennessee and win big, they might. As a 4-0 team, get ranked. But the ACC Coastal. To me, it's more difficult this year than any year I can remember Pitt being in it. I think North Carolina is one of the best teams in the country. Miami, the same thing. And Pitt has to play Clemson again. Now it's home this year. It's at Heinz Field. But you know, at least you're not playing Notre Dame. But they play Miami and Clemson and Virginia Tech, all in a short space in North Carolina, all in a short space of time. I think from Halloween on, you know, from end of October through the middle of November, their schedule is brutal. You got to start out 4-0 so they can give themselves a little bit of a cushion, maybe to get to 9 wins this year. You know, a Pitt team hasn't won 9 games in a season since 2009, and they've only done it twice since 1982. Three times since 1982. They've won more than 8 games. You know, they've always seemed to lose at least 3 or 4 games every year. Whether that changes this year, you know, yeah, I guess it could. You know, fifth-year quarterback, a lot of guys coming back on defense who played fairly well. They lost some guys in the NFL, which is going to be difficult to replace. But I can see them going 8-4 with some luck, maybe 9-3. But like I said, Miami, North Carolina, they're going to be Clemson. There's 3 games very, very difficult, and I believe they go to Virginia Tech this year. You know, that's also going to be a very difficult game. So yeah, there's 4 games right there. So 8-4 sounds a little more realistic than 9-3, but we'll see. You know, you get off to a fast start, they get some momentum. You never know what can happen.
Exactly. Well, Jerry, thanks so much for coming on tonight, and we'll get you on before the first game of the year, September 4th, and then we'll see how. You know, I know you probably can't go to training. You know, fall camp, but they only show like.
We are. We're out to watch practice on Friday. Friday's the first day. And then we have face-to-face interviews with Narduzzi and the players Friday afternoon. So we're going to have face-to-face interviews this year. Maybe not every day of the week, but we are back a little bit. Narduzzi even told me that when I talked to him on the phone. He said, "I want you guys down there so I can see your smiling faces." So we'll see.
Hey, everybody needs to see Jerry. Yeah.
Pat likes to see us. He likes to tease us.
Exactly. Well, bud, have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you down the road.
Okay, gentlemen. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Always great talking to you.
Good talking to you.
Bye. That's our good friend Jared Apola from Pittsburgh Tribune Tribune. They're in beautiful Pennsylvania. So
I miss Pittsburgh.
Yep, Pittsburgh. Good old Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh, I went back to that place you told me to go to in York.
The Manny's.
The
Manny brothers, the best.
It was so good. Yeah, Nicole and I were like, "Yeah, let's go up there." I'm like, "Okay."
Nice.
Yeah.
Howdy, man.
Yeah, it was good. You know, their cheesesteaks are great. Yeah, but I'm gonna get next time I go up there, I'm gonna get one of those loaded sandwiches, the ones that have the fries and all that stuff on it. I think I'm gonna go try it.
Sounds like a plan, man.
Exactly. Well, we're going to see if we got Mike James here. His device is not connected. I don't know if he's on the video or he's using the audio. So let me wait for him for a little bit. He should be joining us shortly. We want to give you a program update for next week here on the program. You probably heard of these people, the 3-point conversion. Yeah, those people who you've probably been on the Zoom calls. You know, the people from Atlanta. George, they do a lot of NCAA football and all that. Well, we met them down there in Atlanta, so they're going to be coming on next Wednesday night.
Cool. To
join us here on the program. We're going to talk some SEC, everything else, because it's going to be we're going to be right smack in the middle of the so that's next Wednesday night, 7:30. Raphael Haynes from the 3-point conversion will be joining us next Wednesday night, August 11th. So
that's quite a logo.
Yeah, I like their logo. Let's bring in this gentleman, Mike James. He's the president of the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, also the Jim Thorpe Award. Mike, thanks for joining us. How is everything in Oklahoma?
Hey, everything's well, fellas. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. I'm not as tech savvy as you guys. But listen, hey, before we get started, I did hear you talk about Primanti Brothers.
Yes, sir.
It's funny. A few years ago when Darrelle Revis was on our list, I went to Pittsburgh to meet with him to do, as you guys know, our award's a character award. And so I went to meet with Darrelle to find out more of the off-the-field stuff about him. And so I went to Primanti Brothers. So I heard about the loaded sandwich. And I walk in, and the waitress was a few years older than me. Mm-hmm. And I said, I ordered the sandwich. And she's, the place was not crowded, but she was moving like this. Right. And I said, hey, can I have my sandwich can I have my fries on the side? And she went, no. And I went, okay, that's fine.
No. Yeah, it's like,
I mean, you'd have thought I asked for something unconscionable, and she just said no.
That's a
I
cardinal
said, okay, that's
sin.
perfect.
yeah, what George just said is a cardinal sin. You don't do that. But I went with the cheesesteak, and their loaded cheesesteak is the best. Yeah,
I got to be honest. I didn't even know they had cheesesteak.
Yeah, they do. And it's all full. And I'm a Met fan. It's all pirate stuff. So I walked in the other day with my Met jersey on. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're like, and the lady goes, "What's your name?" I was like, "Well, you can call me Mr. Met." And everybody's looking at me at the bar. I'm like, "Yeah, I know.
That's a bad deal.
Yeah, I know. We're in first place. Where you guys are?"
They spiked your sandwich.
Hey, it was great. I enjoyed it. That's why they didn't cut it this time around. They probably were ticked because I was wearing the Met jersey, and I was like, normally they cut it down the center so you have two sandwiches.
Yeah,
they didn't do it this time, and I'm looking at Nicole going, I totally understand why.
I'm afraid to go back.
Nice, exactly. Well, last week you guys put out the preseason watch for you guys.
Right.
Like some of the people on there we're going to talk about. You got some ACC guys, and we covered the Big Ten as well. You got a Penn State dude and a Notre Dame, person as well.
Right. It's a pretty diverse list when you look at conferences. We have 10 different conferences represented and an independent. It's a very diverse list, which is good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Miami kid, Bubba Mulden. We saw him down in the ACC kickoff. He's a good, part of the Miami's defense coming back to, into being that best defense in the land.
Yeah.
And what do you think about him?
Well, he was on our list last year. He was a semifinalist last year, and I had the opportunity to meet with him. Pardon me. I had the opportunity to meet with him, and he's just a great young man. I know that, when he left USC, if I'm not mistaken, USC, there was, maybe some people scratching their heads, but he's a solid guy and a great player, a great team leader. And like I said, a semifinalist for us last year. I'm excited that he's back on the list.
Yeah, exactly. Then you also got some Clemson kids, on the list. You got to have Clemson's defense. They're doing really well. They actually, I think they're the best defense in the ACC. That's what I think West Durham said the other day on Packer and Durham. But I feel like everybody else is trying to get better at what Clemson is doing.
Well, and you got to with Clemson, you look at Brent Venables. You look at what he did when he was in Oklahoma, which is where we're based. And so we had an opportunity to get exposed to him personally with his defensive schemes and all the different players that, that he brought up through Oklahoma's defense. And, he's an incredible coach. So we take a good hard look at Clemson. And again, not that we don't look at the other schools, guys, but there are some schools out there, and I hope you guys would agree with me. For different awards, there are some schools out there where you just automatically expect someone from that school to be on the award. Think about the Outland Trophy. You just expect somebody from Alabama's offensive line to be a member, on the Outland Trophy watch list. So, and same with defensive backs. You expect someone from Alabama, someone from Clemson, someone from Miami, and some other schools out there. And so anyway, certainly Clemson has a couple guys we're keeping our eye on.
Well, George, you got a kid, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. He's on the list as well. You probably saw him last year a lot. There in South Bend. What did you like about him? I think you hit the mute button. You're muted.
You think I'd be a master of this darn mute thing by now?
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton, when he came in his freshman year, his first play was a pick six at home. And then last year, he was out a couple games because of injuries and whatever. But the kid, he impressed the freshman. He impressed freshman year when we were watching him, and in the summer ball, the kid had 14. He had like 4 or 5 interceptions in over 2 practices or something like that. Some crazy number. But as Kyle said, the kid, he's one of those. He goes to one of those schools that you'd expect to see a kid like that on the list, and because the kid puts his heart and soul into it, and he's a solid guy.
And here's the other thing, fellas, and we've talked about this over the last couple of years that you and I have been working together, Chris.
Yeah.
The preseason watch list is exactly that. It's a preseason watch list. We make every attempt to keep it at a minimum. 35, 40 guys on the preseason list. We assign point values to them based on how many All-American teams are on, and that's how we come up with our list. However, throughout the course of the year, a guy can play his way onto the list, and so there may, and I say this for your listeners, Chris, there may be some guys out there, some listeners scratching their heads, and we've gotten some emails about it. Hey, why isn't this guy on your list? And the thing is, we could put 80 or 90 guys on our preseason list, but again, it's a preseason list. So as the season progresses, every one of these young men out there in Division I college football have an opportunity to play their way onto the list. So and I want to say this for your listeners, Chris, if someone out there is listening and going, hey, my guy's not on there, that doesn't mean they won't end up on there.
Right. I agree with you. It's like you said, it's a preseason list. Yeah.
It's like a prognostication.
Yeah. It's not like it's the final one and you're going to Disney World at the end of December and or come to Oklahoma and get the cowboy hat and all that stuff.
Right.
But, people just don't realize that, yes, you got diehard fans like myself, who's a Florida State guy. My brother's a big Miami guy. He knows about Bubba Mulden because he saw him last year on TV, and he told me how great this guy is. I'm like, okay. And I said, well, maybe we should dive in a little more with him and see what kind of person he was. And I saw him in the ACC kickoff. He seemed like I didn't go up there to see him and talk to him, but he seemed like he was a nice guy. I saw him Tuesday night walking around the city of Charlotte with his girlfriend or whoever they brought girlfriends. I was like, I thought this was like a business trip. Why are you bringing everybody in there, bro? Yeah. But we saw him, Euan and I saw him walking around the city, and we're like, oh, okay. So it looked like he's a kid who's trying to get his name out there to become a player that might be in the NFL next year.
Yeah. And I see that happening. And again, we had the opportunity to spend some time with him the other year, and just a good young man, solid guy. I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it. He's a defensive field general when he's out there, and the coaches have kind of levied that on him, and he's taken that responsibility. So good guy.
But Mike, your guys' award, it has a reputation behind it, and you look at not just play on the field, but is how are they as a human being, and that plays a lot into your selection. So it not everyone could be on the list, and you say people can play their way onto the list, which is even more reputable for that person not to be on the list initially, and then ultimately, it's not how you start, right? It's how you finish.
You're absolutely right, and that's a great point. There are a couple guys that never made it on our preseason watch list. We had a winner of our award never make it on our list until the 3 finalists, and he ended up winning.
Wow.
Because again, we don't stop looking. And
right.
to your point though, it is more of a character award. If you took 100% of our award, it's 51% character, 49% play on the field. Because let's face it, guys, if you're a starting defensive back in Division I football, you're a pretty darn good athlete. You got to be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we know that you're a good athlete because you're a starter in Division I football. Secondly, though, how good of a person are you? And that's one of the reasons we have a committee of over 40 people, and at their own expense, throughout the course of the college football season, they'll make trips to games, not just to watch the game, because we can get stats stats the next day. Yep. But we do that so we can meet with the player. And when we meet with the player, we really don't talk to them about the game they just played. We say, tell me something I'm not going to read about. Tell me what you do off the field. Tell me what you're involved in. Tell me what you do when you go back home. Those are the kind of things that we want to find out. And we won't know those things unless we go meet with these young men.
Yeah, like we helped you a couple of years ago with Love, the guy from Notre Dame.
Absolutely. And he ended up with 1 of the 3 finalists.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool that he was at Yankee Stadium and everybody was talking to him about how many he did good defense, and I'm asking him, talk about who you are.
Right.
Who are you? Who is this guy? And he was telling me, hey, I work with kids, I help out, deliver food in South Bend, and to me, I think that's great because you're teaching like me, I'm 40 years old. That's something I used to do when I was a kid in my church. Go on the weekends, deliver food to the senior citizens, bring Christmas cookies and all that stuff. And I thought it was pretty cool when I was a kid doing that. Helping out a young senior citizen and making them feel warm during the holidays.
Right. No, I agree. And you're right. And Chris, to your point, that, you had the opportunity to glean that information for us, and that helped us when it came time to narrow our list down.
Yeah.
It ended up one of our 3 finalists.
Exactly. Let's talk about the last year's winner. He's from TCU, and I think he's on the Oakland Raiders, or excuse me, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm still going to call them Oakland. Yeah. I'm sorry, but Las Vegas having a football team is like having dynamite on the broadcast, because you're going to go out there and you spend more money that you probably don't have.
Oh, absolutely. To me, it's kind of like, and please don't, I hope none of your listeners take this out of context. It was like when Dallas got the North Stars from Minnesota in hockey. You're going, wait, hockey in Dallas? And I mean, no disrespect. And they've won Stanley Cups, so it's worked out, but it almost doesn't mix. But Trayvon Merrick is one of the finest young men that you'll ever meet. And when he came to Oklahoma City, we went to the Jim Thorpe Rehabilitation Hospital at Integris, and he met with patients. And my goodness, and again, every one of our award winners has done that. And I believe that that's what speaks to the character of the winners of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award. These young men are extremely selfless, and it's just wonderful to see.
Yeah, he looks like a great, great player for Texas. Texas, TCU. My dad actually, back in the 70s, he told me he went to Texas one time and saw the Horned Frogs. He had a mug. I'm like, "Where's the mug?" He goes, "I don't know. I threw it out." I'm like, "Okay, whatever."
We've always had, for the last, golly, I can't even tell you, I don't know, for the last number of years, we've always had a TCU guy on our list, and most of the time make it to our semifinalist list, and a couple times a finalist. I think back TJ Johnson, this is years ago, was one of our finalists. So TCU and Gary Patterson, they've always produced some pretty salty DBs. But Trayvon Merrick is he epitomizes what the Thorpe Award's all about. Truly does.
Exactly. Well, one last person we got to talk about is the kid from Penn State. We're actually 3 hours away from State College. Yeah. Jaquan Brisker. He's a senior. What is he going to bring to the table? Because he seems like Coach Franklin is going to use him as the catalyst for that Lions defense.
You know who he reminds me a little bit of? And again, I don't want to. I really hesitate to speak as if I know a lot about him. What I do know about him reminds me a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick. If you remember when Minkah Fitzpatrick was at Alabama, he was Coach Saban counted on him not just to be a leader on the defense, but to really play whatever position he needed on whatever play the offense was running. Minkah was just a universally all-around defensive back. I mean, whether it was nickel, corner, safety, I mean, he could do it all. And Jaquan Brisker reminds me a little bit of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but if you watch Minkah Fitzpatrick, he reminds me a little bit about that, of him.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw some of the highlights. Yeah, he looks like, one of those typical safeties that you might see Sunday afternoon or Monday nights on, ESPN. And I think he could be a good, pick in the lottery next year for the NFL.
Well, the thing is he can, when he's out there, he can move wherever he needs to move in that defensive backfield. And I guess a better way, for the lack of a better way to say it, not get lost. He's a salty player. And hopefully we're able to get up to Penn State to meet with him and learn a little bit more about him off the field. That's my hope.
Yeah, I'm going to go up there for the Auburn game on September 18th. So. Oh,
great. Well, hey.
Yeah, I'll make sure I'll get it for you. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you guys a question. What are you hearing out there with regards to credential requests?
A lot of people or a lot of organizations, you have to have your vaccine card, or they want you to fill out like University of Delaware, you want you to fill out a form every time you got to go up there for a game. I don't know about Maryland. Maryland's doing the same thing. I think Maryland just wants you to make sure you have your card, you're vaccinated. I just think I think it's going to be different places, different organizations, what they want to do.
Right.
Same at Notre Dame. Full vaccine, both shots to be in the press box, player interviews and stuff like that. So it's tightened up.
Yeah. Now, when you mentioned player interviews, are they still? I mean, even if you're fully vaccinated, you have both shots, you have your card. Are they still going to allow you to get that close to a player?
I believe they're doing that I believe Notre Dame is doing that for the fall camps. So as of right now,
because I think back prior to COVID, when we would go to a game afterwards, and actually we go into the room where the media meets, and then if there was a Thorpe guy we were watching, we could sit down one-on-one and just have a conversation with him. And in that scenario, do you see that happening this year?
Maybe I feel like in the beginning with all this stuff going on right now with this Delta, whatever, I feel like they're trying to figure out what they want to do. I think everything's going to be 6 feet. I think there's going to be 6 feet rule, and I guess you got to have a long stick like you're in the Tokyo Olympics, and try to talk to somebody. I just feel like, hey, I'm just glad this time last year we didn't do anything. This time last year we were sitting at home trying to figure out what we're doing. Right. We were watching baseball with nobody in the stands. We were getting ready for NFL football with nobody in training camp. Watching it. So I just feel like, yes, it's out there. Just people, I'm not going to make it political stuff because I know people are probably going to email me and start yelling at me about my political views. But I just feel like whatever. We're happy. I went to Charlotte a couple weeks ago. No problems. I'm good to go. Let's bring it. But I have my girlfriend who has a bad immune system, and I got to be a little more cautiously because of of what she is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, Mike, thanks so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate having you on. We'd love having you on. And Euan says sorry he couldn't make it tonight. He had something to do. But,
no, hey, listen, fellas, I'm truly grateful that you allow me, a few minutes to come on and visit with you guys and talk about our award. It means a great deal to me. And if there's anything going forward that I can do to help you, just never hesitate to let me know. And I mean that. I'm truly grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. We might do something during the season, like we'll highlight somebody on the list. It's like the player of the week or something that you guys pick. Because I know I get the newsletters and you do like the player of the week or something like that. Maybe I could reach out to the organizations, like the different universities, and maybe you could help out doing it too, because they got to say, oh, okay. Because some people don't know about internet radio.
No, I'd be more than happy to. And again, fellas, I'm truly grateful. Thank you so very much.
No problem. And enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll talk to you before the week one.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's our good friend Mike James, the president of the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame and the Jim Thorpe Award.
He's always a great interview. Yeah, always full of energy. He loves what he's doing.
Yeah, just awesome. He's a great guy. And I was thinking of this week's show. I'm like, he put out the watch list last week, and he had something happen. He was supposed to come on last week, but he had a family emergency, and I'm like, that's fine. I totally understand. Family comes first. Don't worry about it. And I do whatever he needs me to do to help him. If he needs me to go to a game, just make sure you help me get a press pass. One thing. We're waiting for Dan DeTore to join us. I know he's probably out there in somewhere, over the rainbow. So he'll be joining us hopefully shortly. So it's great. The Jim Thorpe Award. What do you think about the list? I think it's great that he puts every conference in. Mike does.
I think he has a great list of guys, personally. It's just not the fact that he's got a Notre Dame guy on there. When you think of the Jim Thorpe Award, like he told us so many times when he's come on the show, it's about character. The majority of the award goes to character. 49% goes to play on the field, and that's what's so critical, because if you're going to put a guy's name on on a Legends trophy,
right?
You got to make sure that you got a reputation behind it.
Oh, I agree. I think it is great to have a reputation behind it because it's representing that trophy. It's like the Heisman Trophy. You represent the Heisman, no matter how many years you're going to be. You're like 20 years after you won it. You still represent that trophy.
And there's guys that are around wondering why they can't get the trophy back. Well, let's.
I knew that was coming.
Hey,
good old Reggie Bush there, buddy.
It's in the recesses back here, and especially when he brought himself back into the limelight lately. You shouldn't have to go begging for something. You did something wrong. There's consequences.
Right. So I'm trying to get Dan on the program here. Maybe we'll just get Dan on the phone here. Yeah, real quick here. Yeah,
But Mike, he's a great interview. I love talking to Mike.
Yeah. Let's get Dan DeTore on here. I don't know what's going on with the the link here tonight. We'll get him on. This is why we do it on the video. Hey, Dan. Dan?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we'll put you on the phone here. So we got the voice of the Wake Up DT, Dan DeTore with us. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. Sorry about the link. I don't know what's going on with it. Something happened with here on StreamYard, but thanks for taking some time tonight. So, what's your take on the Jim Thorpe Award?
Yeah, I was listening a little bit to what you guys just had on there, and I think it's great to promote something like that and to have that come out and whatnot. I think there's a lot of positivity to it. There's a lot of great awards that in college football come out. The opportunity to honor people all the time. So, I think it's a wonderful thing. And, just to see somebody's performance on the field, their ability and character and everything else that goes along with it, I think is beautiful. And, to see some of the people that have been honored before, Minka Fitzpatrick from Alabama, some of the guys that you kind of just take a look at through history and, some of the players that I covered and whatnot, and some of the guys like Patrick Peterson from LSU back in 2010, and Terrell Buckley from Florida State. It's kind of cool to see these names. Charles Woodson from Michigan as well. So, it's a great award and a great way to honor people.
Exactly. So we got George with us tonight. George Bashira from Shakedown Thunder. George, what do you think about what do you want to talk about with good old Dan here?
I want to see what Dan's spin on is the NIL. We've been talking a lot about that tonight, Dan. And I've actually had increased conversations with folks here in the South Bend area, with Notre Dame in my backyard. I think there's a danger here of this whole NIL activity and these players not understanding, nothing's free. Money's not free. You got to pay taxes. And there's got to be a huge concern with the compliance departments about who's complying, who's not complying. And then the guys got to worry about the IRS coming knocking on the door.
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot, I've said with the NIL, name, image, and likeness, that there's more questions than answers. That's where we were at when the conversation was brought up. And it's where we're still at, and speaking with coaches around the country about, the NIL and speaking with the players too. What I really liked about what players had to say, and I spoke with every single team from the American Athletic, all 11 institutions for football, spoke with all their players about name, image, and likeness. And I was moved by the fact that a lot of these young men are, talking about, I don't want to just sign a deal. I have to make sure it's right for me. I have to make sure it's good for my brand. I've had people call me and offer me money, but I have to really sift through it and see what makes sense. Other guys said, listen, I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the season. I have to keep football first. And if I do look at these deals, they can't take the place of football. They can't take the place of my team. So I loved the fact that all of the gentlemen that I spoke with were very much adult about it and thinking in the business mindset, as young as they are, about how to go about it. I mean, I'm a business owner of over 9 years now, and I learn something every day. So it was nice to hear that. But I do think it's a slippery slope. The fact that boosters can now be involved or before they couldn't, and then the question of what if a booster or a business owner sits on the board of a school, and what if they pay a quarterback $50,000 and that quarterback ends up being the backup? Do they go to the school and say, hey, we got a car commercial with this quarterback A and quarterback B starting, but we got $50,000 on this guy and we're a laughing stock on your commercials because we're promoting the backup, so he needs to start. And then does he have pull with the president or the chancellor? So there's a lot of things that used to be illegal that now are in a gray area. And like I said, there's a lot more questions than answers right now. And as one of the coaches told me today, it's going to take about a year, he said, until we start to understand this. I would take what he said, and I think it's going to take more than a year to understand it.
Exactly. Well, Dan, I was looking at some stuff today. There's a report out from the folks down in the upper state down in Clemson, South Carolina, around that area. Clemson and Florida State reached out to the SEC to join the conference. That's a report I heard today. What's your take on the SEC? Because I know Texas and Oklahoma want to join, but now ESPN is in deep trouble because they feel like they, help something to help that, to push that thing along.
I would be surprised in Clemson or Florida State doing that. To me, obviously there's a Clemson-South Carolina rivalry, ACC, SEC, and there's the Florida rivalry, ACC, SEC. But, I'm looking at the SEC right now saying to myself, all roads go through Alabama. And LSU's gotten better. Georgia's good. Florida's better with Dan Mullen. Auburn's kind of, every couple of years they come in, they go out, they come back. So, Texas A&M is better with Jimbo Fisher, who I had a lot of time covering and speaking with when he was at Florida State. So I think the SEC is already stacked. I think Oklahoma is going to find it tough to not be better than 8-4. I think Texas is going to be worse. So, do they ever get out of it alive? Maybe here and there, but all roads go through Alabama. So, if I'm a team and I'm leaving a conference, I'm not necessarily looking to join the SEC. I get the money side of it. I get the promotion side of it. I do get that. Mm-hmm. But, the road to the college football playoff, it becomes a little bit more difficult. And, I don't think it would make sense for Clemson or FSU to join the Southeastern Conference. But if they do, we're talking about almost 20 schools. We're going back to super conferences. We're going to eventually have, 4 conferences, and that's going to be college football. So it's a scary place.
Exactly. Well, we're here with Dan Tortora, the president and CEO, sportscaster, writer at WakeUpCallDT.com. Very good show. You do it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And, we're on YouTube, Facebook, MixLR, the website itself. We're all over the place. And then they could download it on Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart. So basically wherever they want to go, they could find us.
Exactly. Dan, another question to ask you. You and I were talking today on the phone. You cover a lot of NFL as well. So you do the NFL. And you have a chance to go down to Jacksonville once in a while to see the Jaguars. Now they got, I think, Clemson South. That's what everybody's calling it, because they have Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, and you have what's his name? Good old the guy from Ohio State. I forgot his name. Urban Meyer. Coaching. What do you think about Urban Meyer's first year in the NFL? This is not college, boy. This is the NFL, and you got to tell these players how to play because now they're getting paid.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is we're going to see, right? Some coaches translate to the NFL, some don't. Even look at where he is today, and people forget that he used to be on the staff of the Cleveland Browns. So, I think it's going to be trial and error. Urban Meyer is definitely igniting the fan base. It's a name to take seriously. I think it's great that Trevor Lawrence ended up going there. They've been looking for a franchise quarterback. a lot of people knock Blake Bortles, but if you actually look at him by the numbers, he was on pace to be better than Mark Brunell statistically.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mark Brunell, if he had stayed a few more years, and Mark Brunell had Keenan McCardell, Jimmy Smith, Kyle Brady, Fred Taylor, and that fantastic defense, Donovan Darius from Syracuse, Aaron Beasley, Tony Baselli was on the team, Tony Brackens, and so on and so forth. So that team was incredible. Blake did a ton with less. His interceptions and touchdowns and yardage, it was right there. He's second all time. So, I think Blake doesn't get a fair shake, so that's kind of an aside. But beyond that, Trevor Lawrence is another test for them. I think Gardner Minshew, I'm a big fan of Gardner Minshew. He was at East Carolina before he went to Washington State, covered East Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy Trevor's there. I hope he continues to do what he did in high school and at Clemson, which is lose 4 games in 7 years. And beyond that, Travis Etienne's a nice security blanket because he knows him. And Jacksonville's got the right mindset. Beyond Clemson, they draft and bring in a lot of guys from UCF, Florida State, Florida. And Tim Tebow's down there now with Urban Meyer and, Jacksonville. I mean, he's home. So there's all positivity. Somebody told me you guys will definitely be better this year, and my response was they won 1 game last year, so I would hope they'd be better. But
there's no place but up.
Jacksonville. What was that?
There's no place going up, dude. You got to go up from the bottom. You always, if you won 1 game, you always go up. You don't go back down.
No, I think 8-9, 9-8, because there's that extra game now. I think they'll be somewhere in the middle.
That's true. Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on tonight. We'll get you on the video side. We'll work together and see, figure out what's going on with StreamYard tonight. But thanks for coming on the phone and tell everybody what do you have planned for Friday?
We got a lot of stuff coming up. So this is Atlantic Action Week. All my Q&As with all 7 schools in the Atlantic Division of the ACC. Next week's the Coastal Division. Then we're down in Florida for Florida in Focus, spending a week down there. And then the American athletic stuff will be on, and then it's college football season. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and they can get audio on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, and as you mentioned, wakeupcalldt.com. So plenty of ways to listen, and it's free to do so and to watch. So
yeah, it's really good. It's very good to watch, and I enjoyed coming on your program, and thanks for coming on tonight. And I think you enjoyed it as well. And don't be a stranger, son.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I definitely implore everybody to come to Herb FM and take a listen and watch what you're doing there. I appreciate what you brought to the table, and Euan as well, and everybody that you've had out there. So continued success for you, and I hope things always continue to go up for you.
All right, buddy. We'll keep in touch. We like I talked to you a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk more about what I need some help with.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care.
I see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Yeah, that's Dan Tortora, president, CEO, sportscaster, writer, you name it. He does everything. So good kid, good guy. He's been doing this for 9 years, dude. His own business. So. So he's going to help me out a little bit. So we're going to figure out how to do this so I can sit home.
You and me both.
Yeah, I know. I think it's time we're tired of paying for the man. I think it's time for the man to pay us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. I want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. Jared Apola from the Pittsburgh Tribune for joining. Mike James. If you want to see the Jim Thorpe Award list, go to Jim Thorpe Award. Just type it on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Google, whatever. You can see what the list looks like. Thanks for Coach Hammock, the head coach of Northern Illinois. They're going to be playing Georgia Tech on September 4th. That game's probably on the ACC network, so hopefully you can tune into that. Next week, George, I hope you're available. We got some good stuff next week coming up. We got our folks from I'm trying to find what I wrote down here. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Next week here on the program, we have our friends from the 3-point conversion joining us. They're going to make their appearance here on the program. So we'll be glad to have them on the show. August 11th at 7:30 on next Wednesday. We'll talk more ACC, SEC football because I got a guy from Ole Miss coming on. We're going to do Ole Miss in Georgia. They're going to be playing in those big first games of the year, and we'll talk a little Notre Dame. See how Notre Dame's doing. So we'll get George. George will go in depth with Notre Dame. We'll start with the offense. Let's see how the offense is going. Yeah.
Where all starts, man.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, bud. Thanks for helping me out, and we'll talk to you over the weekend.
Hey, thanks for having me on as always. Good times.
All right, buddy. Good night, man.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.